Hey everyone, Yoiston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. So today, and really this whole year, I'm trying to do different types of videos, branch out a bit, explore some new ideas. Today, I'm going to do something I haven't really done much on this channel outside of the podcasts with Royan, which is explore the lore and conversations through a tier list. Let me know if you guys like this in the comments below after you're finished watching it. If you don't, also feel free to say, hey, Mr. Yoiston, I don't want to see any more things like this. Feel free to just let me know what you think in the comments below. But yeah, I want to try something new today. So what we're going to be doing is taking a look at pretty much all of the major Lord of the Rings characters and then ranking them in a tier list by their power levels. Right, so I've got my tier list here all set up. I'm not scripted. I've thought about this a little bit ahead of time, and I'll dive into that a bit deeper here in a second, but I'm really going to be ranking most of the well-known Lord of the Rings characters by their power level, S being obviously the most powerful, and F being the least powerful, which also means that these characters are generally more powerful than your average person of Middle-earth. So yeah, we'll just keep that in mind. Definitely not every single Lord of the Rings character is in here. I've got a few book characters that don't appear in the movies, but generally, again, these are kind of the main characters when we think of Lord of the Rings. And since this is not scripted, I'm going to try to keep each character discussion to about 30 seconds or less, and I'm going to try not to ramble and be repetitive. So let me know your thoughts, if there are any ways that I can improve something like this going forward in the comments below. And one last thing. I have explored each of these characters except, let's see, the King of the Oathbreakers and Gothmog, I believe, as well as, I guess, the General Nazgul in epic character histories of their own. Maybe Durrensbane, too. But most of them, even the Nazgul and Durrensbane and so on, like, have videos wherein I discuss them, the Oathbreakers, but maybe not the individual characters. So, I do have a fair amount of knowledge when it comes to each of these characters, and if you want more info on any one of those, just type in Men of the West on YouTube, and that character name, it should come up from the past 7 years that I've been doing this consistently. So, alright, without further ado, let's jump into it. First off, so I'm using a tier list that I added more to on Tiermaker, and so there are some characters here that others put on that I put on myself, but starting with Tom Bombadil, he definitely, of course, goes to S. Like, you know, starting off with a super easy one. He's going to be a tough one to beat, but the source of his power is unknown, right? People talk about him as an enigma in nature in Middle-earth. Some people say he's the personification of Eru Iluvatar himself. Some people say he's the music of the Ainur become incarnate, so on and so forth. I would put Goldberry right up there with him. We see his power most aptly depicted in that he just kind of messes around with the One Ring, makes it disappear, makes it reappear. Like, it has no effect on him alone out of pretty much every other character it comes into contact with. So there you go. Frodo, when we're talking about strength here, you know, there's different kinds of strengths, different kinds of potential, what we see versus how powerful their spirits are, so on and so forth. With Frodo, I'm going to probably put him C or B. I think I'm going to go with B simply because his willpower is one of the strongest in all of these characters, if not the strongest, other than like Tom Bombadil. So yeah, I think his willpower to resist the ring for as long as he did and continue the quest earns him a position in B, although his physical strength and all of that is not great. All right, next up we've got Boromir. See, he almost has the opposite problem of Frodo. He has like so much strength of arm and so forth. But when we see him at his weakest, which is in that late part of the Fellowship of the Ring when he tries to take the ring from Frodo, it's because he has a lapse in willpower. So for that reason, even though obviously he's a stronger fighter, I'm going to put him in the same category as Frodo because he has such a weak will when it came to that moment with Frodo in the ring. All right, Sam, I'm going to actually put him higher than Frodo. Obviously, I don't think his will, you know, with the ring, it's debatable whether he would have been a better ring bearer or not. I think Frodo was apt as a ring bearer, but he took on Shelob, man. Like, and, you know, I think when it came to those that he loved and had compassion for, no one really outdid him. So even amongst all these characters, I'm still putting Sam in A. Denethor, I'm going to put him in C because we don't really see his strength much on the battlefield. He doesn't seem to be a super strong leader. However, he does have a strong willpower in all of the years. In the lore, right, he put up with Sauron through the Palantir for many years before he succumbed to his madness and the chaos that engulfed him in the events of The Lord of the Rings. So I think he really earns a C spot there. Elrond, I'm going to put in S tier. We see that he's a very good healer. We see that his knowledge of lore and the history of Middle-earth, and as well as his lineage being half-elven, but also the son of not only a man and an elf, or rather two half-elves themselves, but Eärendil and Elwing, right? One who flies a Silmaril through the sky as the evening star, and another who has the powers of like a bird in in Valinor. So his parents are insanely strong. He's got the blood of Beren and Luthien. All of that, I think he fits an S tier, although he's not the strongest. I'll say those that are furthest to the left are the strongest in this category, but we'll be adjusting that as we go on. Éomer, here's what's tough with Éomer. He's definitely a strong leader, good willpower, has the courage to carry on. If we're talking book and movie, I mean, he holds fast to the men of Rohan even when things look grim. Again, a strong leader, strong king, all of that kind of stuff. But I feel like to make it into A or S, you have to be able to point to very specific things that like somebody who took down or some extraordinary event. I think I would put him for now over to the furthest strongest B that we have so far, simply because when all was lost on the ruin of Pelennor Fields, he kept, I might not say hope, but he said death, 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 charged out, and saw the black ships, right, and then Aragorn came, when we're talking about the books, saw the black ships, Aragorn came afield, and they had victory, right? So, again, not quite as strong of a willpower as Frodo, but everything else in terms of strength and power pretty much outdoes Frodo there. Éowyn, I'm going to put her higher than Éomer, as she slew the Witch King, right? And that's something that, again, that's a feat that could put her up there, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think much more needs to be said. She's incredibly strong of will. I think maybe what's preventing her from being S tier for that deed is that she was still pretty naive in her youth. She needed to overcome a lot of post Pelennor Fields depression, which was totally understandable. But I would say post all of that, the healer version of Éowyn, I might even put her maybe higher than Sam. But the version that goes and heals Ithilien and so forth. But she's right up there with Sam, I would say. Gimli. He saves, so one of the best dwarven fighters of all time, overcomes animosity, which I would say is a strength of a different kind, putting away your ego and learning to live with the elves and live with them in Middle-earth, I guess, putting aside your animosity between kindreds, so on and so forth. That's certainly a different strength of a different caliber. But again, I struggle because what did he do beyond just aiding the Fellowship? I'll put him right here next to Frodo, I think. Aragorn, S. I'm biased. I still wouldn't put him higher than Elrond or Tom Bombadil, obviously, but he's King Elisar. He eventually commands the Oathbreakers, one of the best warriors, the hardiest of men in Middle-earth. Need I go on? He definitely earns a spot up here very easily. Legolas, same sort of thing as Gimli. Obviously, in the movies, if we're counting the Mumuk slang, we're not really counting that for Éomer, so I probably won't count that for Legolas. Yeah, I don't know. He and Gimli are pretty interchangeable, I would say, here. Arwen, I'm going to put an A. Now, here's where we're talking about potential versus actual power. I think she has a lot of potential power, but what we actually see is kind of rare. But I think being the daughter of Elrond and so on and so forth, being the granddaughter of Galadriel, she would have a lot of power. Not enough, in my mind, to put her in S tier, that we see, right? Again, we don't see any amazing deed that she does, somebody that she takes down in a fight or some great spell that she does, so there you go. Bilbo, I would say I'd put him over here in B as well. I mean, okay, here's where his strength is. It's, again, I would say less than Boromir overall, probably Boromir, Legolas, even Frodo, because he does hang on to the ring. He does have the willpower to not succumb entirely, but he does succumb to the ring's temptations during his life a bit. But his strength is actually a lot in his mind. He outwitted Gollum in the riddle game and was able to get away from him. He outwitted Smaug. So if we're talking about mind power and all of that, he definitely earns his place here. Faramir, B's going to be a heavy tier, I can already tell. You know, he's not said to be as great of a warrior as Boromir. His strength's a bit different. I'm going to put him down here, but higher than his father Denethor. He's wise, he's far-seeing, all this sort of stuff, but at the same time, again, not enough deeds in terms of battle. I would say he charges out. He's a great leader. I think that's where his strength is, as well as his wisdom. But yeah, I think he earns a spot in C, if we're comparing him to the deeds of the people in B. Merry... Love Merry. He helped. Certainly Eowyn couldn't have slain the Witch King without him. I think that probably earns him a spot in C. Beyond that, though, yeah, I don't know. Again, he took part in the slaying of the Witch King, and I think that puts him there. But it wasn't like he was particularly super well trained. I guess you could argue during the Scouring he was quite strong, but that was compared to ruffians and hobbits that had never fought in their whole lives. So there you go. Wormtongue. I'm going to actually put him in D. You know, how much of Theoden's corruption came from him versus came from Sauron? Up for debate. You know, I would say that he's strong in his manipulation and corruption, but that's it. If you know that he does that and you, like, reveal him of it, like Gandalf does, he's actually quite weak. Gollum, I would even say, it's probably C. I mean... Strangely enough, I feel like he maybe has taken down more enemies of his than Merry, even. But I think he's firmly in C. The fact that he has lived for like 600 years and is still strong enough to like run around the land and do his thing and sneak up on people and be just Gollum, you know, I think that gives him... I'll even put him left of Merry. Well, no, again, Merry helped take down the Witch King. All right, but they're pretty close. Isildur. Okay. I'm probably gonna put him up here. I think his lineage, first off, the fact that he's a Númenórean, his lineage, his strength, he was surely an effective commander and king. I think he's pretty high in A. Witch King, I think, is our villain that, now that we're starting to get to more villains, I think he's definitely an A as well, above Sam, but, oh man, okay, well, he took down Arnor. Okay, I'll put him up here. I think by the end of the Lord of the Rings story, I actually would probably say he's about on par with, if not a little bit weaker than Aragorn. But, again, he managed to lead a whole, kingdom of his own, Angmar, to take down the realm of Arnor, sent forth spirits. Yeah, I think S is pretty solid. Obviously, Gandalf, higher than Elrond, not quite as high as Tom Bombadil. You know, again, Tom Bombadil's so difficult, I don't think anyone's going to unseat him from this first spot, so the fact that he was first on this entire list is a bit funny. Gandalf, obviously, super strong. His strength came from, he's got, abilities and power in combat, but advising the free peoples, bringing hope to others, using his Ring of Fire to do so as well, certainly helped. Saruman, if we're talking Gandalf the White and Saruman the White, I'm putting him probably right below Gandalf. Saruman's strength came from his knowledge and his use of his voice. His voice was his strength, and the fact that he could command entire hordes of armies and get people to do the things that he needed them to do to be a tyrant over Isengard speaks a lot to his strength. But again, we saw Gandalf actually come out on top in terms of power during the conversation between the two. All right, poor Pippin. I actually think... Obviously, Pippin does do a lot. You know, he even kills a troll during the Battle of the Black Gate, which is easy to forget because it's just a small spot in the story. But yeah, he helps slay a troll during the Battle of the Black Gate, which puts him in D at least. He makes a lot of mistakes. He is clearly a character that we're supposed to see as meek, growing in strength and wisdom throughout the story. But yeah, you know, compared to a lot of these other characters, again, Merry's got the Witch King. That's the reason he's in C. To be fair, Pippin doesn't really even have that. I guess he put up with the Palantir and didn't talk about Frodo. But I'd say he's right there next to Grima. Radagast is interesting because if we're taking his book lore and everything into account, he's a shapeshifter, which is already a lot of innate potential power. However, he doesn't really do much with it, and we don't see enough instances to make him S tier in my mind. So I'll put him at the head of A tier. Obviously, Sauron. Sauron might be the only one close enough to being the top of our list besides Tom Bombadil. But Sauron obviously is more powerful than many of our heroes combined. Otherwise, he wouldn't be much of a threat. And now, this version of Sauron, too, is not... That's like Last Alliance version Sauron. So, again, depends on how strong Tom Bombadil is. I think Tom is still a bit stronger than Sauron just because he can resist the temptations of the ring. But Sauron is the strongest on this list besides that. Galadriel... You know, I would say by book's end, this changes throughout. Like, her place on this list changes a bit. I'd put her above Saruman, actually, simply because by the end of the story, Saruman is quite broken and weak when he comes to the Shire, but Galadriel uses her power to bring down an entire fortress, the fortress of Dol Guldur. After the wars ended, she goes there with the Elven host, and she just demolishes that whole fortress in Mirkwood, which is a crazy amount of power for an elf. She's gonna be our highest elf on this list for sure. Now, I'm not sure why there are two Witch Kings on here, but yeah, we already rated him. And so we've got Theoden. I'm gonna put him in A because even in his old age, we've got a couple instances. Again, Eomer, we don't really have him having this moment where he slays like a named enemy of great power, but even Theoden does. I want to say it's the Black Serpent of Harad. Theoden slays him on the field of Pelennor. And so again, that speaks to his strength, even in his old age. But even in that old age, he overcomes the darkness that was upon him from Grima. He leads his kingdom at Helm's Deep and in Pelennor Fields. And yeah, I mean, his leadership, even in his strength of arm, is quite powerful, So I think he aptly is A. Glorfindel, is he more powerful than Elrond? This one's a tough one. Again, if we're taking his Silmarillion lore into account, yeah, I'd probably put him up here like next to Gandalf and Galadriel, but for what he does in The Lord of the Rings, but we still kind of know his backstory, I'm putting him just above Aragorn. He's quite strong, he can fend off the Nazgul, the strength of his spirit is quite present, all of that. King of the Oathbreakers, I think he's probably our weakest S, but it's very clear that he commands a great deal of power, movies and books. You can just see how the Oathbreakers absolutely wiped out the forces of Umbar and so forth. Mouth of Sauron, I think he's a black Númenórean, which gives him a certain level of strength as a warrior and perhaps even as some sort of magic wielder sorcerer type. But we don't see enough of it. I'm going to put him, just because we don't have enough to really talk about him too much, I'm going to put him right beneath Denethor here in C. Watcher in the Water. We didn't see the full extent of his power, but he was enough to break down the rock and the trees next to the doors of Durin. He didn't break the doors themselves, but he broke everything around it. So that already puts him up here. I'm going to go ahead and put him... Yeah, I'll put him above Radagast. Yeah. All right, Eladon and Elro here. I might even throw the Great Company, the Rangers at large with these guys, but Sons of Elrond, solid warriors to have at your back, and I think that's a perfect place with our B tier. I'll put the two of them. Again, they're better warriors than Frodo, but there's a reason they weren't a part of the Fellowship. I'm going to put them right beneath, I think, Boromir here. All right, Gwaihir the Windlord. And again, the Eagles in general, I'm going to put them... Put Gwai here. Oh, man. They were able to fight off Fell Beasts and Nazgul. Even if we bring in Hobbit lore, right? They did quite a bit. My problem with Radagast is that, again, we don't know exactly what he can do to the fullest extent. We don't see it. Again, potential versus actualized. So, Shelob, I think Shelob's got to go higher than Sam, because the courageous part about Sam was that knowing Shelob was stronger, he still charged in anyway. So, right above Sam, maybe even right above Radagast there. Yeah. Gothmog. So, Gothmog is really interesting because we don't know too much about Gothmog, other than the fact he was second commander right under the Witch King in the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. Whether or not he was some sort of wraith himself, he couldn't have been a Nazgul, but perhaps he was some sort of other, like, Black Numenorian or something like that. The movies show him as this orc. Based on the fact that he was second to the Witch King, it wasn't just another Nazgul, but it was this Gothmog figure, I would say probably puts him in B tier pretty solidly. I'll put him... Poor Bilbo, but I'll probably put him right above Bilbo. No, I'll put him to the right of Bilbo. Again, Bilbo, like, tricked a dragon, so... or at least lied a little bit to a dragon. We got Círdan the Shipwright. I'm putting him up here... yeah, to the right of Aragorn, I think. He's like one of the oldest elves in all of Middle-earth that's left. I imagine he had great knowledge of lore and strength of his own kind, all of this sort of stuff. And some people that are, again, missing from this list that are in kind of the background of the lore. You got your Thranduil, you've got Dain Ironfoot, you've got these types of people. I would still say Círdan, in my mind, who knows if he had much military strength at all. But I think he was involved in wars like the War of the Last Alliance. I think he has some potential untapped power. Maybe that puts him in A. All right, I think I convinced myself down a little bit. I'd probably put him in A, maybe right below Radagast. Okay. Nazgul generally. So, like, just a single Nazgul of the 8. I feel like in the Fellowship of the Ring, an incredible threat. As commanders on the battlefield, still their frightening presence, black breath, all of that kind of stuff. They're fell beasts a lot. Not quite as much as the Witch King here, though. I think Aragorn could take probably 1, 2, 3 of them at least in combat. So I'm going to put them in A. I'll put them... Yeah, I'll probably put them right there. I think one... It depends on how many we're talking about, but if we're talking one Nazgul, maybe I'd even move him right next to Sam. All right, Celeborn. Another character that, again, we don't see too much. We know he led forces. We know he led Lothlorien. Had a pretty apt commander leadership sort of capacity based on the fact that he leads the forces of Lothlorien against Dol Guldur during the War of the Ring and so on. We also know from the Second Age, he was, again, pretty effective commander. So I think he's A tier. I think he's probably above Círdan. Galadriel calls him, I think, the wisest person in Middle-earth. I have some doubts about that. I don't know. I think he's apt right there. All right. Down to our final 2, because that Witch King repeat. We got the Treebeard man. He has the strength of the forest, which puts him above C. He rallied the Ents, helped take part in the destruction of Isengard, but, maybe a bit susceptible to fire. Bad joke there, but, he's got some weaknesses, surely. Quite strong in his own way. I think he fits here somewhere into B. I'd probably put him here. Again, you could probably just change out these two, like Legolas Gimli. I think they're right there next to each other, which was kind of on purpose. All right, and we got Durin's Bane, the Balrog. Since he slew Gandalf and Gandalf slew him, he's already S tier. Now, where in the S tier? Aragorn could not have taken him down, no matter Aragorn's stage of life. Glorfindel slew a Balrog. Could he have slain Durin's Bane in the Third Age? I'm not sure. Yeah. He's He's probably right around here somewhere. Could Galadriel have slain him? Maybe. Maybe with all of her power. Could Saruman? I don't think Elrond probably could have. I think Saruman, Galadriel, Gandalf probably could have, you know? And so I think that's where he is. And there we go. I think that is our list. Men of the West, characters ranked by power. Perfect. And that is our tier list. So again, if we're talking about all the characters in Middle-earth, I could fill up F for sure in terms of power. You got Lobelia, Sackville, Baggins. You got, you know, a multitude of other hobbits. A couple probably, you know, men characters, like human characters that we meet. Even a few elves, the ones that just kind of hang out in Rivendell, maybe would be an F or D tier. But of our main cast of characters, I think this is pretty good. However, the fun thing about this is the debate and the dialogue here. So this is quite a long video. I wasn't sure how long this would be, but let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this with a friend. What are your thoughts on this tier list? Again, let me know what you would change or add or anything in the comments below. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider getting some candles from our friends Mythologie Candles, or order some Weta or United Cutlery Lord of the Rings swords, statues, and other replicas from Castle Con, who does international shipping. And please use the code WEST at checkout. And please also check out our merch and Patreon. Thanks to our Valar tier patrons and YouTube members, Peter Sheppard, John Hume, Maz Gibs, Rhys Jenkins, Arthur, Merlin, Theodore, Moon Viper, Andrew Carlisle, and Zoomi. Please subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the free peoples today. And I'll see you all again next week at the video on how Tolkien did Dwarven world building. My friends, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.